Sorry, I shouldn't meme. I'm not even memeing, I'm just... Okay, let's get into Soulstorm, shall we? At some point, we're going to need to debate replayability when it comes to Dawn of War 1. Since, I mean, I'm never touching these games again. That's because of bugs. So, a little biased. Sunshine? What is sunshine? Okay. What am I doing? Right, we're doing the Dark Elder mission. Although, I want to test something just really quick, because I noticed this happens to have the wrong unit. Never mind. Hang on. I know, Blade Taval, it's weird how that works out, but here we are. Bug of War! Yes, I like it. Oh god. Oh god. Good morning, Huthor. You know what really pisses me off about all this? And I know this is going to sound so petty and pathetic. Other than Soulstorm, I was actually really looking forward to the Dawn of War 1 review. And I mean, in the interest of fairness, there's a lot of story positives here, and a pretty big chunk of gameplay positives. It's just, god damn, a game that was objectively bad that I like anyway. So, I usually have two examples of that right off the top of my head. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest on the NES, Castlevania 2, or excuse me, on the SNES, and Castlevania 2 on the NES. Honestly, the older I get, the less that happens. I actually have a separate tag for my reviews I call sushi. And sushi is whether or not you enjoy something, essentially regardless of its quality, right? You may acknowledge that it's got issues or it's got problems or whatever, but you still love it regardless, right? Regardless of its quality. And I think the lowest game on my list right now that has the sushi tag is Mega Man X5, which didn't score super well, but I still love the crap out of, right? So, I have had bad sushi. I've been to Target. Well, you know what? Here, let's crash the game really quick. Let's just look at the thing. Anything to not have to play this for a few more seconds. So, I actually spent this morning doing the audit and getting caught up on that because I anticipate we'll be finishing up Soulstorm today. So if we ignore the bugs, just the bugs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 negatives by itself, just for bugs. But hang on, because there's a couple other things that aren't quite in the bug category, but that fall into the issues. So hang on, so that's 10. Let's see here, 11. Give me a second. 12, 13. So that would be 13 negatives that don't exist if this game didn't have the issues that it has, is what I'm going to call that. Now, that's still a decent chunk of negatives. In fact, a huge number of those are for level design. A lot of the vanilla missions and a lot of the Winter Assault missions, specifically. And nothing salvaging that map. That map is terrible. There's also some very bad padding issues, mostly in Soulstorm, but also a little bit in DC and some of the other ones. The pathfinding problem is a constant issue, and the controls have some issues by virtue of being an older RTS, essentially. And that's kind of it. That's kind of the bugs right there. And by bugs, I mean negatives. Sorry, I'm running on -3 hours of sleep because I couldn't get to sleep last night. You ever have that thing where you're like, you're ready to lay down, and then you lay down, and it's not literally this, but you feel like there's just a shot of adrenaline. And so you're just laying there, and you can feel your heart pounding because you are wide awake. That doesn't actually happen to me all that often nowadays, thank God, but that's because I usually drug myself down. But yeah, last night was just a right in the chest, and so yeah, I was having issues. So forgive me for being blurred today. Anyways, to flip this a little bit though, let's see how many of the gameplay positives are for Dark Crusade. Give me a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Scroll down a little bit. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's 17 of the 32 positives are for Dark Crusade. Gameplay-wise. Story-wise, most of the positives have actually been for vanilla, which I find absolutely hysterical. Anyways, now that we've crashed the game, let's go ahead and restart the game so we can actually play it. Because there's nothing in my life I want more than to play Soulstorm right now. Question. So, one of the things we're debating is external continuity negative for Soulstorm. Thoughts? This is something that other people would be more familiar with than me. But, I mean, obviously Soulstorm is just... I made the not quite joke yesterday that Street Fighter 2 has a better plot than Soulstorm. And I stand by that, by the way. I mean that without memeing or joking. But I thought of another one. Smash Brothers has a better plot. Not the Wii one. Regular Smash Brothers has a better plot than Soulstorm. I just looked at her chest armor for the first time. Why is she wearing that? Is that a missile launcher? Okay, whatever. I mean, what's funny, Huthor, is even knowing as little as I do about Warhammer 40k, this whole plot is just... What? Dark Crusade... I was kind of with Dark Crusade because if you were paying attention during the Dark Crusade opener, and I was, some work and thought and effort was put into getting the factions on Cronus, right? It's like, okay, Necrons are waking up here. It is a Tau planet. The Guard are moving in. No, excuse me. The Eldar are chasing the Necrons. The Guard are chasing the Eldar from Winter Assault. So that's, okay, that lines up. That's cool. The Space Marines are here trying to... Yeah, like, there was work and effort put into figuring out why all this crap was here. And yeah, it tied in not just Warhammer 40k, but it also tied in Winter Assault. But then there's Soulstorm. Okay, so they're here, and therefore everyone is here, is essentially the plot. And that gets me back to my Smash Brothers comparison. I should be talking while I play. I can talk while I play. This is this game. Yeah, Dark Crusaders exist, so here you go. Blah. And they're trying to stretch it out across the whole planet, which I get why they want to do that gameplay-wise. Excuse me, the whole system. I get why they want to do that gameplay-wise, but... Why? Alright, so let's knock over the Dark Eldar. Let's just do this. Yeah, sure. Let's go.
The Dark Eldar little feared an attack on their base of operations, situated as it was on the dark side of the moon, well within the reaches of the warp storm of Kaurava IV. The seventh ancient gate lay on that moon, but the Dark Eldar, knowing its technology well, had fixed it to work only for them when they had arrived there. The effect of this hubris and the general anarchic nature of Archon Tarald's soldiers resulted in a sprawling makeshift reproduction of Komorrah, the Dark Eldar home city. Surrounding the major war camp lay smaller camps, surrounded by miles of torture ground, a sort of cage garden of the homunculus Grumman-Nael's making. Rich with...
You can tell the voice actor is actually struggling with the script.
This area had grown and sprawled. Meanwhile, the center grew dense with powerful Dark Eldar, and the legendary Asdrubal Vecht, leader of Taril's Blackheart Cabal, was said to oversee the war preparations there. To say the Dark Eldar were unprepared for an attack would not be quite accurate. The Dark Eldar are ever ready for battle. It is a sport, and a passion to their kind, and there is no such thing as catching them off their guard. Nonetheless, the miles of torture gardens were poorly attended at best, and full of prisoners, many still capable of turning against their captors. For an attacker, there was a faint glimmer of hope.
Of course it's a chaos planet. Gotta have tentacles. I mean, what's the point without tentacles?
Ha ha! We are fresh from the fight. We have shed blood. Death, terror, and anguish sang sweetly in our ears.
But Lord Terran, have you taken prizes?
Do you doubt me, Kumenea? Many prisoners were taken. We have our tribute to Komara, and many left over from our slave chambers, and your torture grounds.
Come, Archon! Come to my torture grounds.
Do me a favor, say torture grounds 5 more times.
But always richer. Rich with slaves and spoils.
Indeed, we shall be well respected and rewarded when we return to Komara.
When we return, if we return. Return the victors. Or return the vanquished. My grounds, where screams are flowers and pain their fragrance. A fine, fine nest we have. High upon the cliff, hard to see, harder still to reach. Will they reach this nest? Will they take away my garden?
Are you questioning my right to lead? My inevitable victory? I am the deadly shadow and the bird of prey. I am the poisoned dagger that brings swift death. These crude and foolish armies know nothing of strategy. If they see a wall, they attack it. If they see an army, they charge at it. They will be too busy with each other to notice us. Or if they do, it will be too late. Worry not. And it is of no matter, we keep a keen watch. If an army approached, surely we would see it coming. Then we would tear it to pieces.
So this is kind of petty, but there's one last, very minor reason I don't like the Dark
Sisters,
Eldar.
hearken to my words. This prisoner camp holds many of our comrades. We shall march forward and liberate them wherever we find them bound. See? One cage lies nearly within reach. It is a sign!
And that reason would be that the Dark Eldar hero unit looks really goofy. No, I mean that. He looks dumb. So this is gonna suck, I just realized, because... well, whatever. We'll get through it. Come on. God damn it, come on, game.
Come, sisters! You are freed!
I mean, I don't know about you, but when I think of decadent, millennia-old torture races who have been driven to extremes of sensation by virtue of total apathy, I think of teenagers.
We have not eluded detection, sisters. Very well. We shall fight.
Exactly, Saffron. See, Saffron gets it. Yeah, I've seen some of the original Warhammer units. They, in person, I mean, and they look and I'm going to say this as nicely as I possibly can, bad. It makes sense why, like, I understand, but they still look bad. It's actually funny because the more modern miniatures, and by modern I mean like within the last like 10 years or whatever, they look really, really good. I've seen some damned good ones over the years. I mean, hell, Chaos Gate Demon Hunter was pretty much built off of the models of the miniatures, so there you go for that. Of course I did, Trax, yeah. What's the issue? I hate Avatar too, but it doesn't mean it looks bad. So it's funny you say that, Plutonia. This is going to sound very out of the way, but Pax and I were playing ESO last night, right? And we were doing a quest in Vardenfell. I mentioned that specifically because the writing for this quest was actually really good. We were dealing with someone who went insane as a result of having his spirit split in asunder while he was sent to infiltrate a spot. Very basic stuff, right? But he was very well written, is the point I'm trying to reach here. Like, there was a very serious logic and sensibility to him. It's just, it wasn't standard logic, right? And I was impressed with that. Now, the double funny part here is, in addition to that bit of good writing, because of how ESO is structured, we then decided, because we've been deciding this for a while, but last night was the time where we finally went back to vanilla ESO to go through the vanilla quests. And goddamn, those are written terribly. Just, wow, like the gap in quality is huge. I know that's true for a lot of MMOs. It's just funny to immediately go from Vardenfell to, you know, to vanilla. Hey, G-Juice. No. Tell you what, G-Juice. If I win the lottery, I will bring back Lord Herbs. Deal? As I love having that level of toxic negativity in my life. No. 28 years. Wow. Whoever the Drow, or excuse me, whoever the Dunmer and Argonians belong to, which I actually don't remember off the top of my head, because it really doesn't matter. Long term. Which faction are you part of? Who cares? Oh, yeah.
My seal, guide my hand!
Interesting mission construct so far. No, you're right. The Dunmer have nothing to do with the Drow. It's just funny, because they're both Dark Elves. And I'm currently playing a mission where I'm going to kill Dark Elves, so... You know. I'm tired, Saffron. What do you want from me? I sleep.
Canonus, there are 2 camps of the enemy near to here. They are well defended, and with our current strength, I do not think that we could take them.
I agree. That's turbo not happening. We can. Yeah, it was just nothing but chainsaws last night as I was trying to sleep. Just all night. Actually, in a non-joking manner, one of my wonderful neighbors decided to leave their music on overnight. So that's always fun. Unrelated to why I couldn't sleep, just fun little factoid. One of my favorite quest chains in Vardenfell was when we're helping a Argonian woman climb up the ranks of the Telvanni, and she's not a horribly evil person, so she keeps having issues with it. Because she lives in Vardenfell, Saffron. Obviously.
Our numbers are increased. We grow ready for our ultimate goal.
Say that. But yeah, she was a former slave, because, you know, Argonian. Vardenfell. I'm gonna save here, because this is probably gonna go really badly. Let's see how we do. I mean, let's be very honest, ESO Vanilla kinda sucks. No offense to anybody who likes ESO, including me, by the way. But ESO Vanilla was just a cavalcade of bad design decisions. There's this wonderful quest where it's like, oh my god, the city's under attack, and it's hard to explain how not under attack this town is. Oh no, we have to put out the fire to save the guy, and so we put out one, like, small brush fire over the door, and then rush in, and there's a completely normal-looking house, as if nothing's wrong. But, sorry, what I'm building up to is the very fact that they decided to go with a faction system because WoW did it, and let's be clear, that's why they did that, was a bad idea. I actually agree with that, Huthor. And that's funny, considering that Tor Trooper and Tor Jedi Knight are some of the worst MMOs in terms of microblocks or bronze ratings that I've ever reviewed. Go figure, I suppose. Because Tor Vanilla also had, you know, the Sith side, for lack of a better way to put it. WoW Vanilla... WoW Vanilla got lucky. Let's just call it what it is. WoW Vanilla accidentally did into almost every design decision they made. Yeah, if you go into WoW Vanilla after playing Asheron's Call, or EverQuest, or any of the, you know, the classics, then, yeah, that was a sea change. There's a reason I went out of my way to say back in the day, and I was freaking right about this, that WoW was just going to completely change the fabric of the MMO landscape. And I was right. Of course I was right. And while Blizzard have never been good innovators, they've always been very good codifiers. Iterative design, as I like to call it. And the reason I mention that is because two other MMOs came out pretty much right when WoW did, and neither of them had the staying power. Those are EverQuest Online, or excuse me, EverQuest Online. Wake up! EverQuest 2 and Lord of the Rings Online. EverQuest 2 was a very poor attempt at updating EverQuest. It really was just EverQuest again, in a lot of ways. And had major issues by having none of the support or infrastructure that EverQuest had in place. And then, of course, we had Lotro.
Emperor! Servitors! We must erect a forward camp with speed!
Yes, Jay Palmer, I'm sorry. Lotro... Lotro leaned very, very heavily into the idea of being an MMO that was story-focused. And that's fine, and to its benefit, but it meant that Lotro Vanilla was kind of terrible to play. Lotro is also faithful to the books, not the movies. Now you might think, well, that's a good thing, right? So whether it's a good thing on an individual level or not is, of course, an individual's opinion. But it absolutely hurt sales. A fairly large number of people jumped into Lotro thinking they were going to play the movies. They were wrong. And there are differences. Quite a few of them, actually. And so a lot of people jumped in, and there was a pretty big initial boost, which then immediately shrank. Whether it's the right call, wrong call, that doesn't matter. That's what they did. That's what it was. Where are we? Oh, because Lotro's still there, although monetized to hell and back, so make of that what you will. If Modern WoW was released when WoW Vanilla came out, it would have absolutely destroyed everything. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't WoW do that? No, you're not listening. It would have destroyed everything. The idea of an MMO in the style of Modern WoW would have crushed the era of EverQuest 2 and Lotro. Especially EverQuest 2 Vanilla and Lotro Vanilla. Like, again, I want you to think about going straight from Final Fantasy XI, EverQuest 1, Asheron's Call, or Ultima Online, or Dark Ages of Camelot. And those are the big boys at that point in history. Not counting the PvP first, which is mostly dominated by Lineage. And I want you to imagine going straight from one of those games to Dragonflight. Like, that's time travel levels of, huh? Can I not? Oh my god, I can't build anything else. Okay. Like, that's... What do you show up? What would happen if you showed up during World War II with an iPhone? That's kind of the equivalent there. Lotro Vanilla was a little bit slower, didn't have as many classes. Whoop, hang on. Bah. What is it, the ban button? There, that one. Bah. And that crashed my game. That's my fault. Didn't even think about it. Didn't think it would take that, like, that was, what, 8 seconds to ban that guy? Or ban that bot, rather. I'm not doing good, Zach Taft. I have like 3 moderators and none of them are on, Saffron. I usually don't actually need moderators. Brax is here, which I didn't even realize he was still here. But, yeah, normally I don't lean on mods. I do stuff myself. I usually only have issues with, with bots. Like
the
that.
Dark Eldar little feared an attack on their base of operations.
Let's see where the last autosave was, shall we?
Well within the reach.
Shut up. Oh, thank God. Okay, so we didn't lose the entire mission. We did lose like about 8 or 9 minutes, but still, could be worse. Of course, now there's no music. You know what? At this point, my viewership levels have dipped so low. This is the worst stream in terms of viewers I've had in years, by the way. And they keep getting lower. Every single individual stream has been getting lower and lower as I slog my way through Dawn of War 1. Not that I blame anyone, by the way. It's just, this has been a really bad stream on just every level. So, what I'm going to do is save, so that I don't have that same problem that just happened again. I'm going to Alt-Tab. Yeah, we just went from Diablo 3 to this. Jesus Christ. Not even on purpose. Hang on. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Now I need to go over here. Here. Okay, come on! Yeah, so far I've had exactly one complaint, which is, if I'm going to be completely honest with myself, part of the mentality for pushing back the Streaminations. Nobody cares about the Streaminations. Like 5 people care about the Streaminations. Do you know how many comments I've gotten total on 3 weeks of justified Streaminations? 8. Yeah, that's new as of Soulstorm. Although we do need to give a negative for that as well. Maybe Jay Palmer? I don't know. I do not have an understanding here. I'm just going to start playing Mega Man music because I need this right now. I need Mega Man music in my life in order to survive. So for those who don't like Mega Man music, I am very apologetic. Luthor, could you explain to Saffron why we're giving a negative to external continuity for this, please and thank you. Like, I could explain the external continuity in general, but I think you're in a better position to explain the specifics here. I have heard complaints about me playing Mega Man music on stream. That is a thing I've run into. Can't even hear it. Hi, Sal, dear. Who? Song about the song? Ah, Sister Repentia. Yes, we have brought the Bondage Squad. Man, I'm tempted, Pancakes. In fact, I'm so tempted. It's weird playing Timon. This game's just so much better all of a sudden. Ah. Actually, no, Rex. Kira Whitenose is quite correct. That would be an external continuity thing.
Praise the Emperor! Servitors! We must erect a forward camp. With speed!
Like, if there is an MCU game which is being made, and Tony is just completely out of character, then that's an external continuity negative, because it is actively being made worse by virtue of how the external continuity is being used within the game in question, right? Now notice I say a worse character, so this is something that not everyone understands. A retcon is not necessarily an external continuity negative. Retcons can be good. We've talked about this many, many times. Sometimes external continuity is changed for the sake of work, and it actually makes things better. So just because something is different does not mean something is worse. That actually came up very recently during the Diablo streams, because the Diablo, every Diablo game has retconned the previous ones. Worst music in a game I've reviewed. Wah, wah, wah. Points if you get it. Halo? No, Halo's kicking music. You kidding me? Hello, Scion. Bingo! Greedfall. Man, that was a stream. So for those of you who were not there for that, which is probably all of you, except for Plutonia, I was really looking forward to Greedfall. Greedfall was a game that was like on my radar for a while. I was like, oh man, that sounds so cool, right? Like a down-to-earth colonialism RPG. That sounds, hence the term, Greedfall, right? So it's just like, ah, that sounds legit. And then I reviewed it. Greedfall was before the Oblivion line. I don't remember where it was exactly, though. So anyways, here, this is just a little bit too loud. Anyways, yeah, you play as a diplomat from like a noble house, and you could like decide which faction you want to back between the locals and the company and all that stuff. And it's just like, it sounds legit, and it was Greedfall. Well, yeah, okay, so the first thing that happened to Koida, you can make fun of me for this because this is completely my fault, is we got a bot in chat, right? And I'm like, oh, I better ban that bot. And it crashed the game because I alt-tabbed for 8 seconds. So we lost some progress on the mission we're on. Anyways, during Greedfall, every time, let me say that one more time in case you're missing it. Every time you opened up the menu, it would play the very beginning of an individual part of a story, or song. And that part of that song starts with wah, 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 and it's this low French horn thing. Every freaking time. And it actually drove me crazy. I hated it, and I gave negatives for it. But it kind of became funny after a while because of how ridiculous it was that every time we open the menu, blah, blah, blah.
How was this allowed to happen? I don't know, Archon. They killed the guards. They amassed a force and will soon have a war camp established. I see. I will inform Lord Vect. Have the soul cages ready. They shall taste the full fury of our powers. Lord Vect is here. On Makune? Yes, now go. The soul cages.
No, it does not crash on all tabs. That's neat. We even tested that with OBS open, just to be absolutely sure. That's what Sunday was. I don't know, Von Falkenstein. Does anybody else know? Because I honestly wouldn't mind that right now. I'm willing to exploit to speed this the hell up. Yes, the head of state of the Dark Eldar is here. Why?
They have been allowed to get far too close to us. Use all the powers of our soul cages against them. I command it. Yes, Lord Vect. It is better to use those souls and annihilate these upstarts. Then go!
Yes. Dawn of War 1 has the issue regardless of OBS. But I like to be thorough because one of the most common, let's say, accusations I tend to get is that, oh, Laura, you only have these issues because you're streaming. Which is almost always not true. I think that's happened twice. Ever. But it's a common accusation, so I usually do my due diligence just to make sure. Especially since, by my own rules, which I stand by, I cannot give a game a negative for something that is only a streaming problem. Look, all I'm saying is Mega Man X1 is awesome, and I bet... Hang on. Challenge for anybody who cares. I bet that you can beat Mega Man X1 right now faster than I can finish this mission. I know I could, but I've actually speedrun Mega Man X1, so that doesn't mean much. Oh, that irritated the crap out of me, Jay Palmer. Not acknowledging universal input. That's what that was. Oh, you could crush the 8 bosses, but I was talking about my usual run, which is 100%. Which means you gotta get the Hadouken. Hey, Novarius. Thank you very, very much, both for the sub and for putting into the comment, so I can write that down later. Thank you very, very much. You know what? I believe you, Saffron. I actually, well, funnily enough, when me and my friends were going through the Trines, because we played 1 through 4, just co-op, Trine 1 was the one that took us the longest. And you're probably wondering, oh, who was asking earlier about a game that is objectively bad that I enjoy? Legitimately enjoy. And you already know where I'm going with this because Trine reminded me of it. Magicka qualifies too. Magicka is not a good game. It is a very enjoyable game, but it is not a good game. Oh no, we crushed Trine 4. Although I actually like Trine 4 the best overall of the series, I think. But no, anyways, to finish answering... So I don't know who asked that question earlier, but whatever. They asked, what's an objectively bad game that you enjoy? Trine 3. We had so much fun playing Trine 3. And the game kind of gets no credit for any of it. Because Trine 3 is an objectively terrible game. One moment, please. So, can't actually give it credit, but you're wondering why is Trine 3 an enjoyable game despite everything? It's because it is janky as hell. Like, I want you to imagine whatever the opposite of physics platforming is. And that's Trine 3 in a nutshell. Like, so for those who know, Trine 1 and 2 and 4 are 2D platformers. They are 2D puzzle-based, physics-based platformers, specifically. And they have co-op modes, and they're awesome in co-op. I highly recommend them. Trine 3 tried to go full 3D. When I say tried to, I mean, I think some of the developers had heard of 3D before, and might have even seen a 3D game at some point in their lives, but they weren't really sure how to do that. So we're talking like just complete jumping all over the place, out of bounds, bomb jumping your way through obstacles because their collision either is wrong or isn't. And the whole time, all three of us are just laughing our asses off in Discord because it's so absurd. It's so ridiculous. It was a lot of fun. Better or worse than Psychonauts 1? Worse, but way more enjoyable. Like, it was actually fun to play. Like I said. Might not have enjoyed it if I wasn't playing with friends, though. I'm going to be real. Like, I don't think Trine 3 would review well, which is my point. Trine 3 is an objectively bad game. Oh, I'm just going to get harassed this whole mission, aren't I? Is there a game made better by Jank? Trine 3. Also Magicka, which we just mentioned as well. Hey, Walker. Yep, this is my life now. As it should be. I know there's other ones, I just can't think of any off the top of my head for some reason. There are plenty of games that are actually improved by the inclusion of Jank. It's one of the reasons why I keep repeating myself when I say that Jank is not inherently bad. Jank is Jank. I mean, I don't think Capcom has given me anything I want, Zach. That's because the music for the game franchise that is playing right now is so abandoned that I'm pretty sure Capcom has forgotten it exists at all. However, for Resident Evil stuff, they're making a new CGI movie, which is already a good move. Get the hell away from live action. And they're doing all of them on screen at the same time for the first... That's, okay. So, do I think that's a good move? Maybe. Depends on execution. Okay, so Outposts can have a holy symbol, and those upgrades get more expensive if you have more of them. But if you cancel that upgrade, you get resurrected for the next one, not just what you build. Okay. Well, I know what you're talking about with the holy symbol thing, but unfortunately I've already upgraded all three of these. Mako! Mass Effect 1. There's a game made better by Jank. And let's be clear, the Mako is Jank. Let's just be really blunt about that. Best song in Mega Man X1, by the way. Actually doing okay on resources, but not okay on that. Let's... Well, I've already kind of mentioned this, that we're just sort of committed to just making Battle Sisters and pretending we're playing the Space Marines. So that's what we're going to do. Oh, and someone asked, is Trine 4 a polished game? Yes, but it has the worst multiplayer. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, Trine 1, we hop in, we join map. Done. Cool. This is original Noctis. It's a composite, but it's still the original music. Trine 2, same thing. Trine 3, same thing. Trine 4, The problem with Trine 4 is that, and I don't remember it right now, we literally had to write it down. There was an exact procedure we had to go through every single time we wanted to play Trine 4. And it was the only way to get the game to acknowledge that the hosted game existed. It was a colossal pain. And like I said, there's a reason we had a freaking notepad with the exact procedure, which worked 100% of the time. We did extensive testing on this. Oh, hey, it's our super unit. And it did work. Okay.
That is but a taste of the pain to come.
Okay. Why are you not... Go here! Oh my god! Anyways, yes, there is a Trine 4. It's probably the best of the Trine games, in my opinion.
We wield powers you cannot even imagine.
And I mean that. The puzzle design, the level design was way just really good. Some extremely inventive, innovative stuff that I absolutely could gush about. I highly recommend Trine 4 if you can get it working to play with friends. Because you want to play it with friends. So, Sigma stages. Let's do this. Let's grab a save now that we've got an army going. Just the one. Okay, hang on. First, let's push back a counterattack. That's an interesting question, Jay Palmer, since I've stopped thinking in that direction, so I'm not really sure I can give a good answer. But if we're to use the EU rules, I would say gray. I would say that's kind of the whole point, really. Are you done? We're good? Okay, sit over here. Did I already get... No, I did not. Get that going. By the AU rules, there's no such thing as gray, really, so... light. And by the rewrite, who knows? I was actually debating an idea for Anakin just last night / this morning. And it occurred to me that I know so little about Anakin, or rather the state of the setting at that point, that I'm not even sure, like, who is going to recruit Anakin into what Force user organization. Interesting to think about. AU is Disney's canon currently. I have to say currently because, as we've discussed, canon is determined by who currently owns the work in question. You know, I wish I was the Orcs right now because they'd be shooting back instead of just sitting here getting slowly picked to death. Yeah, these turrets really suck. Like, really, really suck. So... try to double up on turrets a little bit. Oh god, it's vile. Okay, so if it give so last night, yesterday, TSB finished doing the subtitles for the Diablo rewrite. Those are now live and working, and hopefully that'll help anybody who's having a little bit of trouble keeping up. If it doesn't, well, then that's just my writing style, and I'm not going to change that, to be completely honest. Still, hopefully that will help. TSB did a lot of excellent work for it. Tons of praise to TSB for that. As I've mentioned several times, making subtitles is actually a huge and involved process, so... Yeah, that's another thing. I've had a few people make the comment, including Huthor, who's in jail right now, say, well, I don't know Diablo lore, so I didn't get what was going on. And that's an odd statement to state, because if you knew Diablo lore, you'd probably be more lost and more confused, not better off. Because it's very much not Diablo lore at all. It's a rewrite. If the way we've been discussing how Star Wars is going to come down hasn't really clued you in yet, it's almost fundamentally different. Fundamentally is probably the wrong word, because the whole point is it's actually fundamentally the same. But you get the idea. It is different. It's its own thing. Oh my god! Being nibbled to death by cats. Kill this base so it stops sending nibbling at me. I don't like being nibbled. Unless it's by a kitten. Kitten nibbles are adorable. Is this up yet? It is, but we need to get these going first. And that. Yeah, apparently, Roman Cure. Jeez Louise. Is it funny how much my mood has gone up now that I'm playing this music? That's just me, you know? God, it's just... I know I'm not alone in this, that when you have really good music playing that you really like, it tends to increase your mood. There's literal studies that demonstrate that is a truth. Just interesting to think about. The Burning Legion in Warhammer 40k. Okay, so I could see Sargeras contesting the Emperor of Mankind for being an Order Chaos God. Yeah, in lore, obviously. Why did you... Man, I don't even know. I don't even care. Go repair that. And then go repair that. Yeah, they would have to travel through the warp. Nothing else is available. So it'd be like, ugh. Come on. Yep. Weirdest song in Mega Man X1. It's actually one of the Sigma stages, believe it or not. I suppose context clues would have given away. Why is it? Oh, it's because it's still updating, that's why. Why don't you go down? Oh, right, because I'm dumb. Probably not. No, Jay Palmer. Warcraft demons don't really have anything to do with Warhammer demons. Rebuild for a minute. Who's ready for a boss battle?
Now they shall pay handsomely for their impudence.
I mean, you say that, but,
Back! Back!
Okay, so now that we've beaten the boss battle. Uh-oh. Oh my god. Why do my turrets suck so badly? Don't answer that. Oh, hang on. So this is the upgrade, right? So I need resources at this point, but I don't think it's working. Yeah, it doesn't look like I'm getting anything out of that. Unless I'm doing it wrong, which is very possible. Yeah, the only good turrets in an RTS game is Supreme Commander and the various Total Annihilation lines. Now let's just set up a third one up here because we keep getting attacked from the north, and we will continue to get attacked from the north. So we're going east next. Age of Empires 2 has some very harassy tower defense. Or, tower defense. Towers of defense. It's bad structure, but whatever. Go kill that. Yeah, exactly, Darkrai. Like I said, you can do some interesting harassment tactics in Age of Empires, especially 2. Couldn't beat the enemy unless they had no idea what they were doing, but you could really distract them. God, trebuchets. Yeah. Hey, Crazy Norse. Kill me, Crazy Norse. Kill me! No. We are stuck here forever.
My dice will crush you, wretched worms!
We do get to kill the Dark Eldar, which is always a benefit, really. So we've beaten Mega Man X1. Now we're going to move on to Mega Man X2. It's a shorter game, at least in terms of music. So come on, you're actually supposed to be good at vehicles. You got this. Or it can stay out of range. That's also cool. Did we capture these? Are you here? You're here. Okay, cool. Go here. Where are you? You're just back off. Just back off. Honestly. Faction that this setting wouldn't be better off without. No. I mean, if the whole setting was just orcs, maybe. Who's taking it on the teeth? I suppose you can say the same about several factions. Like, if there was just humans. Maybe.
More firepower.
See, I'm not sure if the setting would be better if it was just humies either. Necrons. If it was just the Tyranids, well, then they'd eat and move on, so that wouldn't work out either. Okay, I have a very dumb question. Am I not unit capped on turrets in this? Because I literally already have more turrets on the field than Dark Crusade allowed me to have. I've been sort of holding back because Dark Crusade. But, like, do I need to not hold back? There's a turret cap in Dark Crusade, yeah. It's actually very small. 6, I believe. Correct, J. Palmer. If there's no turret cap, then my strategy just changed substantially. Let's play with this a little bit. Because I've got the resources to just burn them. Nope, there is a turret cap. I just ran into it. Damn. Well, okay. You know what? No. Cancel. Keep going. You. You! I mean, the turrets are one of those literally better than nothing situations. And that's about where they're at. They are pretty crap. Yeah, flyers or whatever, which is why we finally got our flyers going. Where are you? You're here. But yeah, the introduction of the gliders, let's call them what they are, was honestly probably not a good thing for the overall game. Just like Frozen Throne and ships. Here's another example of that. Yeah, imagine Mutalisks, except you can only build 5 of them. Like, we're already at the unit cap right now. Just... Why? You know, I don't actually remember, J. Palmer. I really don't. I don't think they did, though, because ships were specifically tied to the harbor buildings, and harbor buildings were campaign-specific. They had to be manually placed. And yeah, I've done a lot of stuff in Warcraft 3. I don't remember ever fighting any ships, or with any ships. Could you, like, do your jobs, turrets? Please? And obviously you cannot. You are physically incapable of doing your job. Okay. Also one of the best songs in Mega Man X2. Game that has most improved my multiplayer. I mean, I can think of games that are actively bad without multiplayer. So I'm going to go with Far Cry New Dawn. I did not enjoy that game until I played it with a friend. WoW Vanilla leveling. No, actually, leveling with a friend in WoW Vanilla is worse than leveling by yourself because of how they handled quest items and quest drop rates. We'll talk about this when we get to the WoW review, but across WoW and most multiplayer games history, especially MMOs, there's several different ways in which they can share credit when it comes to questing. There's totally no shares whatsoever, which is obviously the worst possible option. But then there's does it despawn, which isn't good, but is better than the alternative. And then, of course, there's actually full sharing, and then there's partial sharing, excuse me. So, like, I guess that's just kind of that thing. But anyways, point being, there's really only the three categories. Full sharing, doesn't despawn, doesn't share at all. And obviously doesn't share at all sucks. So enough said on that. Are we done knocking this base over yet? Nope. Could you, like, hurry up, please? Taking it on the teeth. Any MMOs that don't have share mechanics? Yes. All the old ones. All of them. Oh, still around? Well, in that case, that would be, you know, WoW Vanilla, obviously, but there's also Lotro. Oh, no, back off, back off. I got stuff to do. And, I feel like there's another one, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. ESO usually has the doesn't despawn version, which is better than nothing. Yes, I've given into the penitent side. Shut up. We need turrets. And by turrets, I mean, whatever those things are called. Okay, so just for the hell of it. I mean, honestly, just for the hell of it. Can I not make... There we go. Not yet. Whoever asked that, which is Blade Fall. It is weird going back to literally the tutorial zone and everything there's level 20. Which is what we're currently doing. It's taking some getting used to. It's certainly not the bonkers, insanely good scaling tech that WoW employs, but honestly, I'm pretty sure that's just straight up voodoo. So it doesn't despawn. Let's assume for a moment that you need to loot 15 flowers in an area, okay? Doesn't despawn means if you loot a flower, the flower's still there for me. It doesn't despawn. Now, doesn't despawn actually covers a couple of different categories of design, because, for example, let's say that you... kills obviously would share, but if you need to loot a specific item off of an enemy, well, that may or may not share, but I still have to go loot it, if that makes any sense. So what I mean by that is, we kill boss, we both need to loot an item on it. You loot an item off the boss, I don't get any credit, that's because I have to go and loot the enemy item off the boss. Make sense? That doesn't despawn. It's the most common form of sharing. It is not the best kind of sharing. And WoW is, to my knowledge, one of the only MMOs out there that has the actual best form of quest sharing. The only one that actually accomplished it, sort of, is Guild Wars 2. And Guild Wars 2 manages this by virtue of doing things completely differently. What happens in Guild Wars 2 is quests in the traditional sense of the word do not exist. Instead, if you're in the middle of a instance, which covers a lot of ground, I know, but that's why I'm saying it so vaguely. But if you're in the middle of an instance, and one of your friends advances, so whoever is the owner of the instance advances the quest, the plot, then at the end of that instance, everyone who is present is given a pop-up which says, do you want to advance your quest up to this step now that you're here as part of it? And you can say yes or no, depending on what you want. So Guild Wars 2 kind of bypasses the whole equation. Oh, I actually can't make any more of those. That's funny. What are you doing? Oh, you're doing that. Get some turrets going.
My dice will crush you, wretched worms.
Is that the... That is the anti-vehicle one. Well, this could be interesting. Yeah, quest. There is an argument that can be had for very specific cases for quest items having a low drop rate. Quest items having a low drop rate as standard policy can go directly to hell. We all make fun of the zebra host, but no, troll ears. Anybody who's been there knows troll ears were the worst. What in... Where did you come from? Where's the boss? Can't even target the damn thing. Still can't target the... It is the boss. Westfall stew items. I never had that much of an issue with those. Those were like low-tier drop rate problems. I think more people remember those because it's so early on. Troll ears with Stranglethorn Vale. Northern Stranglethorn Vale nowadays.
Dice is damaged, but I shall return.
And you had the drop rate was pathetically low. It, of course, didn't share at all because nothing shared in vanilla. And you needed 30 of the damn things. Oh my god, would you stop for 5 seconds? Just... Oh my god. There's actually several quests in vanilla that are, what you think? They are, get lots of item, low drop rate of item, and doesn't share at all, and it's just, they're the worst quests. They're the kind of quests that would individually receive a negative if we were to review WoW Vanilla, which of course we never will. Hi, Mr. Red. Let's go knock over one of these bases so they stop harassing me, shall we? WoW Vanilla is sort of vetoed, yes. So here's the deal. I've actually said several times that if I win the lottery, I'll go ahead and play WoW Vanilla. I'll review it. WoW Classic, which isn't really WoW Vanilla, but it's as close as we're getting. But that's what it would be required for me to accept that. It'll be my last time through WoW Vanilla, and it'll be a hate-filled spew fest, which will destroy my viewership, because everyone will hate me for speaking negatively about WoW Vanilla. But that'll be okay, because I won the lottery, so I don't care anymore. I can finally be honest about WoW Vanilla. Because I totally haven't been up until now. Really? Game? Well, no, because the so here's the problem. There is actually a real tangible problem with reviewing WoW Vanilla. Other than the fact that I would obviously be very negative about it. Here's the deal. I don't like WoW Vanilla. And the only people who would actively seek out a review, or a stream for that matter, about WoW Vanilla are people who are WoW Vanilla fans. They're here to see someone gush about it, or have fun with it, or just watch a WoW Vanilla stream. They're not here to hear someone say, wow, this sucks. So, it's kind of a failed prospect right out the gate. Hi, Dr. Winter. Like, if Huthor's still there, if I'm trying to think how to phrase this. You wouldn't like it if I reviewed WoW Vanilla, right, Huthor? Would it be worse than this campaign? Yes. God, yes. I want you to imagine for a moment that I spend an entire day streaming maybe one zone. Like getting part of the way through a single zone's worth of content. Now, depending on the density of that zone, that may sound awesome. But it's not. It would be very slow. Huge swaths. Some of you may remember, way back, before we actually did the WoW lore run, I started doing feasibility tests and feasibility streams to make sure that it's an acceptable streaming format, for lack of a better way to put that. Because I was legitimately worried that there would be huge swaths of dead time and dead air, which is one of the biggest things I fight against in my streaming career. And I was so worried about that because I know WoW inside and out. And I was legitimately worried that a WoW lore run would entail that. No, it didn't. Granted, we started the WoW lore run during Warlords, so a lot of quality of life features, a lot of speed up features had already existed by that point. And I also spent the better part of a year doing prep work and planning for that run to make sure that it went as smoothly and as well-paced as possible.
Your suffering is about to begin.
Come on, pull them into the turrets. You got it, Huthor. Oh, God, this coffee is so terrible. Because it's coffee. Okay, did we pull them in? We pulled them in. Let's do it. Focus fire the dais. I'm sick of this damn thing. Zero's here. Kill it. Kill it. We killed it. Oh, that's because that wasn't the dais. What is he doing? What are you doing, dude? Oh, you got it, Huthor. Let me just drink this coffee brand. You know one thing? Someone do me a favor. Look up when Total Annihilation came out, please. I'm going somewhere with this. I'm curious of something. (1997), late 1997. Interesting. So the reason I'm asking is this game, which came out in 2007, does not have a single quality of life feature that Total Annihilation has, and that is auto healing for certain types of units. So what I mean by that is you could set up, you can auto click, for example, a builder unit and just set it on a patrol path, and it would auto repair everything in that patrol path. You could also set up, I don't actually remember what they were called, but they were landing pads. I think that actually came in the expansion. And those landing pads would be places where the planes would auto-land, be repaired, and then leave, which I mentioned because... And I'm just mentioning this because AutoCast, I was about to give a lot of praise. I was actually thinking about this earlier in this very mission. AutoCast is one of the best quality of life improvements to RTSs, and I mean that sincerely. AutoCast is one of those things that's great for helping players lean into micro, even if, for all intents and purposes, it is actually better to do it manually, if you actually know what you're doing. But that's not the point. AutoCast is just a great quality of life feature. This game doesn't really have AutoCast. The only autocast it has is this button up here, where I can autocast that to reinforce. And that's not true either, because that goes away. It stops autocasting the moment they're done. So, yeah. It's just boggling me. So micro... I always screw up this definition, so forgive me for screwing up this definition. Micro is when you're individually not just selecting a unit, but exactly who it's attacking and when and where, and using their abilities precisely. That's micro. It's exactly what it sounds like. You're zooming in and controlling an individual thing as precisely and carefully as possible. Macro, then, in these kind of games, is more about handling the large-scale things. Your resource management, your base design, and trying to ensure that there's an overall flow of unit movement and your kill-loss ratio and stuff like that. Yeah, the RTSs have always leaned into micro. That goes far as back as Warcraft 1 and CNC 1. But that has been something that has been leaned into more pretty much forever. Like they never stopped leaning into micro. Warcraft 3 leaned into micro pretty hard and probably popularized it. But before Warcraft 3, of course, we had Myth and other more squad-based games, which were all about micro. Ah, we're now capped. Okay, cool. Do I think esports have made micro worse? I think that leaning into esports has made micro worse, yes, is how I'm going to phrase that. Whether that's esports' fault or not, that's almost irrelevant. What is relevant is that several games, especially RTSs and MOBAs, are demonstrably worse games because of an overemphasis on micro. Now, blame is a tricky thing to talk about, which is why I'm not even going to dip my toes into that. StarCraft, you know what I like about StarCraft 2, and one of the reasons it's the best RTS ever? One of the reasons. StarCraft 2 actually has a really strong macro game. And if you don't understand how unusual that is, well, then you weren't listening to me 10 seconds ago when I said that RTSs have been leaning towards micro since the beginning. In fact, I can only think of, well, two RTSs, or rather RTS groups, that have ever leaned into macro. The Total Annihilation line, and StarCraft 2.
See how you like us now!
Okay, you gonna come here so we can kill you? Or so you can run away? No, you're just stuck there, aren't you? You know, I don't even care. So StarCraft 2, I mean, ignoring the fact that Heart of the Swarm literally added a select all units on the map button, I'm just gonna mention that. But StarCraft 2 put a lot more time and effort in the design emphasis, and not just of the map mechanics, but of the resource mechanics, and how the game helped you and give you tools to understand how many resources you're pulling at a given point in time, when you're at an efficient pulling ratio. Like, for those of you not aware of what I'm talking about, like, it'll literally tell you, you should have this many workers on a mineral field, because it can tell you the most efficient pull from that. There's actually some debate about that, but you get my point, right? That's there for players to be like, oh, okay. Because a lot of players, especially in StarCraft 1, never actually understood that you could have a lot more than one worker per mineral node. You know, little stuff like that, right? And yeah, the StarCraft 2 also... so StarCraft 2 made it so that the pathfinding is the best ever. And you might think, what does that have to do with what does that have to do with macro? Because StarCraft 2, by sheer virtue of the pathfinding design, essentially automatically made the game a lot easier and better to macro, because you can have a 200-strong army, and it can navigate itself instead of this nonsense which is happening on my screen right now. Yeah, then there's control grouping. There's a lot of little details. We're going to cover this all when we come to StarCraft 2. There's a lot of little details they did to change how control groups work, and how you can actually control groups. And of course, there's the ability to control buildings, and there's the ability to group buildings together, and there's all kinds of waypointing you can do. The waypoint and patrol design is top-notch. there's just so much stuff that makes the game so much smoother and more intuitive to play. It's one of the reasons why I hold StarCraft 2 so high on a pedestal. It's not just because of the story or the individual maps or whatever, but it's because, like Diablo 3, playing the game is just awesome. It has a lot of quality of life features, just top to bottom. Sorry, gushing about one of my favorite games of all time, don't mind me. And yeah, like Takoida says, so one of the biggest problems I keep running into is I have to, you probably haven't been noticing, I've been having to micro my units in order to make sure that all my people who are ranged are all actually attacking the enemy at the same time. In StarCraft 2, there are ways to do that within a single bundle without having to try and individually target specific units. And of course, there's also the spacing issue. So StarCraft 2 does still have spacing, of course, but it has like this other mechanic on top of spacing, which boils down to units can ignore spacing when it comes to navigating each other, which is honestly just a great feature. It's something that they started off in StarCraft 1, and then they developed further in StarCraft 2. So, like, to use an exact example, let's say I've got these 3 units right next to each other, and I really want this unit to go right here. Well, obviously, oh, I actually went through them. Holy crap, I cannot believe they did that. They're still having issues, you're noticing. But my point is, in StarCraft 2, what they could do is they could temporarily remove their spacing, just entirely reduce it, and just scooch right through the other group, which will then adjust to make room for them, and then adjust back to where it was. And it's like, oh, wow. I'm not even going to talk about some of the other tech they came up with in that game. Like, did you know that the mouth flaps in StarCraft 2 are actually generated on the fly based on the audio coming in? They're not manually done. They have a surprisingly complex system in place to do that stuff live. Which, if you don't understand how bonkers that is, let me say that better. If you don't understand how bonkers that is to do that well, it's bonkers. I cannot believe they pulled us off some of that crap. Anyways, most hated game I haven't reviewed yet: Ride to Hell Retribution. Full stop. It's the only game that might challenge Secret of the Stars. And even that I'm not really sure of. We'll find out someday. Yeah, there's also... So, okay. Let's stop talking about StarCraft 2 for a second. Let's talk about Age of Empires 2. Because Age of Empires 2 also had a whole lot of really good quality of life and tech designs. So in Age of Empires 2, you can set formations for your units, which is great, and honestly something that a lot of RTSs need. But the really cool thing was those formations, they did a similar thing to StarCraft 2, where if you, like, say, so I've got this kind of weird, okay, they're not even keeping in formation now, but let's say that I had a formation now, a straight Vanguard, right? The V, the inverted V. So I've got a Vanguard formation, cool, but I need them to turn this way, and as I turn them this way, rather than doing this weird bumbling into each other thing because they have collision on each other, what they'll do is they'll smoothly move through each other to make the V in this direction. I know I'm visually demonstrating this wrong, but it's like they're this way, and then they go this way, so they just kind of reform into a new V over here, or a new V over here, or a new V over here. It's brilliant to watch it in action. And it helps with the micro, but it also helps with the macro. Age of Empires 2 is another good macro game while we're on the subject. It's probably one of the reasons why it had some of the staying power that it did. Which is funny when you think about it. You know, RTSs lean into micro, but the best RTSs are the one with macro. Like the aforementioned Supreme Commander. Okay, I want these 500 units to go over there. Okay. What is spawning behind me? Kill whatever's spawning behind me, please. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Age of Empires 2 is still going. Honestly, as it should. It's a great game, but it's also got some decent love and support from the devs. As it should. Anyways, someone asked a question I was going to respond to. And that question was, have I ever played Age of Empires 1? Of course I have. I've actually complained about Age of Empires 1 because I'm not a big fan of Age of Empires 1. Age of Empires 1 is probably going to get the first tag, if we ever review it. I'm not sure if AoE 1 is even on the list. It might be in the RTS block. You can type !block or blocks in chat to get a list. That's really gross. Anyways. Agreed, Jay Palmer. And I hate to agree with Bellular because I hate his guts, but he's right. Anyways, I've played Age of Empires 1, and I enjoyed it tremendously right up until I got out of the first campaign. And then I immediately stopped having fun. That is not a joke. Like, I have distinct memories of really enjoying the tutorial and the Egyptian campaign. And then... Age of Mythology? Well, from memory, I could say that Age of Mythology is frickety awesome. Any questions? Good game design, good map design, good story. Wonderful way. It was the first thing that I'd ever seen that did the combining mythos thing. You know what I'm talking about. Like, we actually talked about this when we were streaming God of War, because that also does that. Oh, a friend of mine lent me his copy, Jay Palmer. Wow, they're just... He's still saying... What do I need to do still? Destroy the Deus of Destruction. And stop that. I never actually played Empire Earth, really. I'm aware of it. I know how it works. I know how Trails in the Sky is. But I do not know much about Age of Empire... not Age of Empire, sorry. Empire Earth. Oh yeah, Age of Mythology is probably going to review pretty well when we get there. Thank you, Trails in the Sky, very much for that sub, as always. And if you would like to put that sub towards increasing interest in a future stream, please let me know. But for now, we gotta fight Vile, obviously. Oh, we actually lost something. What did we lose? What did we lose? A couple things. I have never found a God Sim I've actually enjoyed. I think I've played all of them, or at least all the ones that you're about to list. Like, I've played Populous, and I've played Black and White, and I've played that one that I actually streamed where you're playing a ball and you have to pick up stuff and then drop it. I think I like the concept more than the execution, because they've never really gelled for me. Oh my god, we've been on this mission for an hour and 14 minutes. And I've been winning. I've been winning consistently. Oh my goodness. You know what? That's a good point. Since we're approaching the end of the mission, let's freaking save. Let's just actually do this. Just in case. Chrono Cross, you got it, Trails in the Sky. Thank you again very much for your support. There's no real cheating, as we've already mentioned. Like, there are cheats, but this is no Age of Empires where you can spawn a car that has a missile launcher. For those of you who think I'm joking, no, really. There's a cheat in Age of Empires where you can spawn a car that has a missile launcher. That's a cheat. Right there. Yeah, in case you're not aware, Age of Empires 2 is the game in question here. Is set in like medieval times. to make this very clear.
I am displeased, Taro. Go.
Yeah, there's the nuke troopers in AoE 1. Like, honestly, when I first found out that there were console commands in Dawn of War 1, I was like, oh, sweet. That means if if worse comes to worse, we can always cheat and just speed things up a little bit. Nope. We can reveal the map. That's cool. Alright, let's go kill the Deus of Stupid, shall we? Because it's literally the only enemy unit left on the map. That's probably not true. There's probably something somewhere, but whatever. Thank you, Walker. Very, very much. That's an interesting question, Jay Palmer. So I haven't shared my big Dawn of War 2 story yet. I've actually talked about it before, but I don't remember what stream that was on. Let's just say, so for those who know, I have played Dawn of War 2 Vanilla before. I have never played the 2 expansions. So those will be new to me. So we'll see how this goes. Because, yeah, there's probably going to be some slog. Let's just... Yeah, anyways. I want to preface it a little bit. So, thank you so much, Walker. I suppose you know the question. And of course, if you could put it in the question queue... Oh, speaking of which, can someone please write down in the question queue Chrono Cross for Trails in the Sky, please? So I don't risk crashing the game. Speaking of which, as much as I love Mega Man music, by the way, we beat 2.5 Mega Man games in music while we were waiting here. Let's go and get the audio going again. There we go. Still no music, but, you know. Sure, J. Palmer, that'll work. Thank you. Tinykin, Kingdom Hearts Block, and FF7R1. Thank you always, Walker. Thank you. So, I should honestly probably give this a bug. This has been true in every Dawn of War 1 game. Whenever you load a save, the music goes away and does not return until the mission has ended. That's been a bug since Vanilla, and it is, as you can see, still a bug in Soulstorm. So the music's on right now. Look at this. Look at this. I wonder if Relic was so used to Homeworld, because that was their first game, that they just never looked into, you know, pathfinding design. Because it wasn't really a thing in Homeworld.
You fool! I will have your head for this! Quickly, back to Kamala. Well, if he had died, I should have taken his place. Now I must flee.
God, he looks so stupid. But we did it. Killed the Dark Eldar. Music's back.
What the Canoness Selena Agna found in the Dark Eldar moon base confirmed every suspicion she had harbored regarding these debased aliens. Such a vile race must be cut out, like a tumor, wherever it manifested. It required all her faith to look upon the atrocities and depravities she found in that place and not go mad. The chaotic powers that twisted the nature of the Dark Eldar made them remarkably strong, but not as strong as the Sisters of Battle. who smote, purged, and pulverized every vestige of taint they found on the moon of Lacune. All that dark iniquity was consumed in flame, and the valiant sisters of battle did not rest until the ground beneath them was thoroughly cleansed and sanctified.
Ooh. One moment, please. So, honestly, I don't know what else to add at this point. I think if we had just played Soulstorm, I could probably push through to the end of this. But between just the bugs and the issues and the crashing and all the crap that we've been pushing through, and I do apologize for this, my tolerance is just not here, you know? I feel ground down, and it's a damn shame because there's actually some legitimately good stuff in here. But yeah, so to give you a little bit of a perspective, we are a little less than halfway through Soulstorm. Oh, I should shut down the guessing game. And if you don't understand what that means we would if we were to keep going through Soulstorm, we would probably finish Soulstorm on tomorrow's second shift. That's how long that would be. Now, it would probably speed up a little bit because our honor guard would increase, and that would help with some of the opening stuff. But yeah, we have 6 more fortress fights, and that includes the Sisters of Battle's fortress fights. We'd have to hop onto the guard real quick and then go just do a fortress battle with no honor guard in order to show that off. And that is exactly what it sounds like. So, since Scion of the Emperor has given me permission to go ahead and pull the plug on Soulstorm, we are pulling the plug on Soulstorm. I'm going to make a save absolutely just in case. But we're done. So for those of you who want the very quick 411 on... How many of you even know what that means? On Dawn of War 1. Vanilla, good story. Dark Crusade, great gameplay, decent story. Skip Soulstorm entirely. And I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop there. I'm not even going to talk about Winter Solstice. So, yeah, well, Soulstorm exists for mods. That is absolutely correct. There is a mod, Armageddon or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. Ultimate Armageddon, something like that. And that's what Soulstorm is there for. Yeah, it was how you could go dial in for information. But yes, Soulstorm is a legitimately bad expansion. It is a rushed expansion pack made by people who did not know what they were doing and were not the original team. It is demonstrably lacking in polish, and it is padded to hell and back. And to be very clear, all of Dawn of War 1 is a little bit padded because of a few specific issues, the pacing thing, or not the pacing thing, it's the spacing thing, and the pathfinding problem, and a couple of other control issues. But all of that is at least tolerable. But Soulstorm is like taking all of those little problems and just cranking the problems up to max to make the game as sloggy as possible. Now, while I do a couple of things here, give me one moment, please. Because I'm going to set you up with something that you probably won't like, but that's okay. You gonna work? There we go. Hey, captured with XSplit. That's funny. Yep, as I say, we might have to resize this a little bit. That's okay. We can do it live. That's a very strange... Is that 16 by 10? That is 16 by 10. What the crap? Oh, whatever. We'll just kind of do that then. Put it right in the middle. I prefer donations, D20 Archon, 100%. Subs are something I tolerate. If I had the financial security, I would honestly turn off the ability to sub to me through Twitch. Having said that, subs do carry a couple of benefits. The biggest one, of course, being you get to turn off ads. No, I have to do a break. I have to do all the paperwork stuff with her, and then I have to do the announcement video for Dawn of War 2. Where is... There we go. Okay. So. Imperial Guard.
The 252nd Caravan Conservator Regiment proved the right to rule in no uncertain terms. General Vance Stubbs' ability to organize and reform this long-neglected army did not go unnoticed by the Segmentum top brass. His career could not fail to rise, in time, beyond the role of Governor-General to a small star system. For the time being, however, Stubbs busied himself and his proud regiment in post-war reconstruction. Thankfully, the Warp Storm vanished of its own accord. Karava 4 was suitable for resettlement. Only Karava 3 did not feel the commotion of construction, mining, and terraforming. This planet was left largely barren. Who could say what else slept beneath those sands? In time, the system became a proud Imperial hub, and famed Guard academies turned out superior infantry, second only to Caster itself. Karava became home to proud human populations, warlike and devoted to the Emperor. In these times, it would be hard to imagine that a bloody war had been fought, or that heresy and chaos had ever been there. Under the visionary leadership of War Boss Gorguts, the Orcs achieved a complete and unrivaled victory over all 4 planets of the Karava system. Generations of Karavan Orcs had dreamed of such a day, never imagining that they would not only overthrow the Imperial Guards, but 7 other armies to achieve their aim. All Karava was soon overrun and teeming with orcs. A phase of wild looting and pillaging was followed by orc settlement, wherein clans laid claim to entire territories at a time. Without the watchful eye of Gorguts, however, all this would have ended in confusion and petty clan warfare. Gorguts had other greater plans. The 4 planets of Karava were to be turned to this purpose. Mines yielded valuable metals, and fields of Orcish factories produced everything required for a proper campaign of galactic conquest. A great war, staged from such an excellent platform and supplied with such resilient, war-worthy orcs. How could such a war result in anything but great victories and greater glory? They hailed the mighty leader, War Boss Gorguts, Lord Al Koruva. Once, in another age, the Necrons had fought a great war in the Karava system, and lost. awakened again. So many millennia later, they found new, strange, and terrible armies around them. This time, however, profiting from the confusion of the living, they would not be denied victory. Soon, the planet teemed with the dark forms of the Necron army. Great tomb ships stood guard while others launched on excursions of conquest. In all doings, their enemies succumbed quickly in confusion and terror. This was no accident. Where the Calrivan Necrons went, their god, the Great Deceiver, ever clouded the minds of their foes. Once, there was a simple soldier who was ignorant that he possessed latent abilities as a psyker. Without training, he could not guard himself, and the gods of chaos whispered to him, driving him feverishly mad. They made him carry out certain plans, perform certain black rites, so that a terrible rift in space and time was forged. Chaos poured out. The Alpha Legion appeared, and the warp storm blossomed from the rift. The gods gloried in their deed. Led by Chaos Lord Feravius Charon, the Alpha Legion spread, slaughtered, and conquered. No force, not even the mortal enemies, the Imperial Space Marines, could withstand the wrath. 9 armies vied for the Calriva system, and Chaos proved mightiest of them all. The 4 Calrivan planets now teem with the strange and twisted forms of chaos. Demons walk openly, and the warp storm grows in size and strength. The Alpha Legion, under Lord Charon, make ready for a far greater war against their oldest and most hated of enemies, the Imperium of Man. It was no surprise that only the likes of the Blood Ravens should prevail in a battle so hard-fought and entrenched as the Calriva conflict had proved. Under the capable guidance of Force Commander Indrik Boreal, the Ravens' 9th Company had acquitted themselves faultlessly. It was unfortunate that, in following their orders, they had been compelled to neutralize the armies of the Imperial Guard and Sisterhood. But such was war. Without doubt, the finest hour the Blood Ravens had known was the triumph over the vile forces of chaos. A Space Marine can aspire to no greater honor than fighting and defeating those treacherous blasphemers. Within days of the Blood Ravens' victory, the warp storm had vanished as mysteriously as it had come. After the war was won, a new fortress monastery was founded in the lands of Solitude. That territory was given a new name, Borealum. Meanwhile, fresh Imperial Guard troops were brought to the Calriva system to constitute a new and better regulated planetary defense force. Defeating 8 powerful armies was a potent demonstration of the great strength, great strike tactics which Commander Ores-Ka espoused. Although his theories had been met with skepticism before, his superiors now debated the merits of such strategies and ways to incorporate them into standard Tau warfare. With the Kauriva conflict definitively settled, Commander Ores-Ka's first cautious step was to complete and upgrade the defenses of the Nan-Yanoi stronghold. Meanwhile, the Warp Storm, which was the purported reason the Tau had entered the Kauriva system, silently folded in upon itself and vanished. With the Warp Storm gone, the Tau fleets began to make their way to Kauriva untroubled, and a massive colonization project then began. Commander Ores-Ka was not to stay in the system which had found peace and the greater good. Instead, the ethereal Aun Ro'ir assumed leadership, guiding the way towards Kauriva, becoming a full-fledged sept of the Tau Empire. At the end of the bloody contest, only the Eldar army remained standing. The Necron had been returned to the depths of Kauriva III, and all those who would meddle, pillage, or spread chaos throughout the galaxy were gone. Farseer Karis had succeeded in her task. She had led her people among the branching roads of the future to the best possible of ends. The Ulthwi Eldar then scoured the planets of the Kauriva system, destroying all vestiges of the war, machine and soldier alike. All, that is, except for those Imperial Guard troops who had somehow survived the defeat. These surviving guardsmen eventually contacted Segmentum Command. When fresh Imperial forces arrived, no trace of the victors could be found. What had taken place could not be explained. A new Imperial regiment was instituted, this time under greater ecclesiarchal surveillance, and rebuilding began. Strangely, however, all efforts to colonize the third planet met with inexplicable disaster. Eventually, embarrassed and unable to explain, the new Governor-General simply abandoned the planet. Occasionally, he would receive strange reports of slender, swift-moving figures and alien-looking arches, which would appear and then vanish again without a trace. With the last major threat removed, the Dark Eldar were now free to roam through the Kauriva system, pillaging and laying waste as they saw fit. Like gruesome locusts, the Blackheart Cabal darkened the skies with their vehicles, descending on territory after territory, laying claim to prisoners and other spoils. The speed and ravening hunger with which these raids were carried out was remarkable. Nothing could escape them. Nothing could outrun them. The keen senses of the Dark Eldar seemed to pierce all cover in search of their prey. It was not long before all Kauriva was stripped bare and devoid of life. Back on the moon of Lacune, Cages grew full of captives, and more cages were built. Archon Terrell and his master, Lord Vecht, sat and supped goblets filled with the souls of their enemies. The homunculus Grumenael cackled gleefully over his victims. As the warp storm quietly disappeared, so too did the Dark Eldar vanish, returned to the webway to revel, then go in search of new, fresh worlds to pillage and enslave. On arriving in the Kaurava system, Confessor Terganum March had remarked to Canoness Selena Agna that he would not be surprised if the place was so corrupt that it all must be put to the torch. In retrospect, these words seemed prophetic. Everywhere they looked, the Sisters of Battle found only weakness, heresy, and abomination. Chaos had nearly devoured the entire system, beginning with the fourth planet. Added to this was the warp storm, which had vanished shortly after the defeat. It hardly seemed likely that any Imperial Guard or Space Marines could have avoided corruption in such circumstances. Although tragic, it was necessary to perform a field inquisition and purge every one of them. When the Sisters of Battle had finished their cleansing, the star system was officially dedicated to their order. Relics of their great victories during the Kaurava conflict were placed in the founding of 6 great ecclesiarchal cities, each devoted to one of the orders militant of the Sisterhood. Pilgrims journeyed from across the galaxy to these retreats, and many millions of sisters gathered there for prayer and preparation in the bastion of Holy Kaurava.
Cool. By the way, I would take the Tyranids. Yes, it's going to be pretty unpleasant, but oh my god! Hang on. I would say no, but of course I'm a little bit biased on the matter in response to Jay Palmer. Dark Tide. I'll be back after a lunch break. Gotta do a little bit more math. I almost finished. For those curious, final story score plus 34. Final gameplay score minus 23. This also took 40 hours, which may not sound like a long period of time. In which case, I just raise my eyebrows at that. Tell you one thing, whenever we review Darktide, it's getting some music positive. No, we're not at the golden number yet, J. Palmer. We'll get there, I'm just... Give me a minute! I like to take my time when doing the audit because I don't want to make mistakes. I have tried to rush the audits before, and almost every time I screw up something. So, nope. Give me a minute. Yeah, we'll do some hypotheticals. I was planning to do some hypotheticals anyways. See some of the expansions would kind of hold it. Like, it does. I didn't quite keep track per expansion, but as I've mentioned, most of the story positives come from vanilla, and most of the gameplay positives come from Dark Crusade, and a lot of the gameplay negatives come from Soulstorm. So we can look at some trends. 30, 40, 44. Oof. Now, we haven't reviewed a lot of RTS games so far. In fact, we've only reviewed 4. Halo Wars 1, Halo Wars 2, Homeworld Emergence, and Spellforce 3. That's not a great list. Of that, Homeworld Cataclysm actually scored the best. Of course it freaking did. We reviewed Empire at War before. It didn't score very well. And honestly, I don't think it would even under the new system. Empire at War is a problematic game. Where's that other one that everybody likes? Oh god, what's the name of the dang song? Hang on. Disposal Unit, that's it. I mean, I enjoy Empire at War for what it is, but let's be clear, the majority of the reason I enjoy Empire at War, have enjoyed Empire at War, is because it was the best Star Wars strategy game. That's still true, by the way. Not counting mods or whatever. That's it. That's the benefit. Yeah, exactly, Shadow Machine. I've played all the Star Wars strategy games, because of course I have. Of course I want a Star Wars strategy game. I want all the Star Wars strategy games. I want a squad-based tactical game. I want a full-tilt RTS. I want a space RTS. I want a 4X game. Do we have any of that? That's good? The answer is no. Frustration. Alright, hang on. Pause. Final wrap-up. I want my Mario 4X. God damn it. Republic Commando is an FPS, Jay Palmer. Didn't I say that, Dakota? I mean, fine. XCOM. I want Star Wars XCOM. Then, period, new sentence. I want an RTS. Period, new sentence. I want another RTS. Ground-based and space-based. Period, new sentence. I want a 4X game. So, plus 34 to story. Honestly, that doesn't surprise me. This is Relic. Relic does a lot of good stuff with story. That is 0.84 pluses to story per hour, which is really good, and 88.64% story ratio, which is really good. Having said that, if you're curious, when that makes that good amount of story positives, but less story density and less story ratio than Homeworld Cataclysm. I know Cataclysm wasn't done by Relic. I'm just saying, of the RTSs we've covered, that's the one that's kind of king on that. Gameplay. This is the worst gameplay of any RTS game we've covered. A lot of that is because of the bugs. So we've got negative 23 to gameplay, which is 0.57 negatives per hour, which is bad. And a gameplay positive ratio of 37 0.36%, which is awful. That gives us, can I get a drum roll, please? A final golden number. Dramatic pause. It is still positive. The story drags it up to positive. Looks like it might be... yep. 22.29. That's not a good number. It is net positive. But for the time investment... ugh. And that means J. Palmer wins. I already checked. We'll put that towards whatever J. Palmer selected, which was something that I looked at. Ace Combat 5. There it is. Now, before I cut off here. Oh my god, Shadow Machine. I don't even want to get into that. So someone asked the runner-up. Runner-up for what? I'm sorry. Which category? So let's kind of do some little theoreticalizing here for just a second. Runner-up for gameplay negatives is Spellforce 3, which was only a -3, but was also in ratio of 33.33%, aka overwhelming majority of them were negative. There were some positives. After that would be Halo Wars 1, which got a gameplay score of +1. And then Homeworld, and then Halo Wars 2. Story-wise, it's Dawn of War 1, and then Homeworld Cataclysm, and then Spellforce 3, then Halo Wars 2, then Halo Wars 1. Halo Wars 1 was our old worst RTS. It has... it's actually, excuse me, it has not been surpassed. It is still actually our worst RTS. Now, let's do some hypotheticals really quick. So let's assume that somehow all the bugs were gone. Let's just start with that, okay? Just for fun. So let's see. Give me a second. 1, 2, 8, 10. So let's just get rid of that. No, J. Palmer. So that just gets rid of all of that. So that boosts the score substantially. If all the bugs are gone, the score just lunges up. Right? And so J. Palmer did, Walker. So if we were to just look at vanilla, this is actually going to take a minute. Let's actually ignore all that. Let's just look at Dark Crusade. Let's look at the one that everyone really cares about. Let's just look at Dark Crusade. So give me a second. Obviously, this won't be correct, because obviously the time is wrong. But give me a moment here. In a hypothetical scenario, this is not an extremely accurate thing. But in a hypothetical scenario, just Dark Crusade would have gotten about a 90 on Golden Number. And that sounds about right to me. That sounds pretty accurate. Again, that's not a perfectly accurate thing, but that sounds about right. Yeah, Dark Crusade, if we're ignoring the bugs, I should probably mention that I started with that, right? I said that at the beginning. If we're ignoring bugs, Dark Crusade would have scored pretty well. We add in the bugs, that score goes down. But yeah. Anyways. How long is your level? Do you know off the top of your head? Either way, I am going to chop off the local recording.